And welcome back to Gamescom 2017 here at the Twitch stage. Pancake Pal is joining me with Joe to talk about Battle Chasers.
Wow, excitement.
I get really excited when I get to talk about awesome things.
Yes.
Now, I remember Battle Chasers.
Dude, John hyped us up.
I mean, John's always hyped.
I know, but
when John gets hyped about things, you know it's something
it's serious
to revel in, to experience, to embrace. Now, Battle Chasers I remember from like the late 90s.
Has it been that long? Yeah.
It has been. And now I feel like it's almost been about 20 years.
It has, yeah.
Since and you
early 2000s.
And you were a part of that. You were a part of that.
Yeah, that was my original comic. I had worked for Marvel for a lot of years before that on Uncanny X-Men. That was the last book I did, and then I started this fantasy comic, Battle Chasers, and I got into the game industry, so I never finished that story, and then fast forward a few decades, and we're doing an RPG based on it, so it's kind of cool.
And here we are.
And here we are at Gamescom.
Here we are.
Right? I mean, I think it's cool that you went back to something like that and wanted to finish that story and tell it in a different way, because the people who are fans of the original comic from way back when, now they have, I mean, you had 20 years to sort of learn new tricks, learn new tips, bring it into a video game form.
Right.
So what can we expect from Nightwar?
Nightwar's, it's kind of cool because it definitely, even the comic itself was inspired by anime and a lot of Japanese RPGs, JRPGs. Like at that time, I was so into it, I would go to the import stores and play games in Japanese and not have any idea what was going on, but I was so into the characters and the look. So now, like, that we're doing an RPG ourselves, obviously it's going to have some of the trappings of those games, like Lunar and Chrono Trigger and all that good stuff. So that's mostly in the combat system because it's turn-based. But when you're moving around the dungeons, you can see it looks more like Diablo almost. We wanted the dungeons to have a lot of interaction. There are random events that spawn. All the dungeons are randomly generated. There's a crafting system. So it has elements of like more modern RPGs, while it still retains that sort of JRPG turn-based tactical combat.
Now we're taking a look at some of this on the screen right now, but what drew you to want to turn this, instead of back into a comic book, into a video game? Because not a lot of people will go that route. They'll just continue the story, write a few more issues, and see how it plays out.
Yeah, well, when we started Airship Syndicate, we knew we were going to do an RPG or some Metroidvania like side-scroller. So when we settled on the RPG, people that knew what we were doing were kind of like, you're doing a Battle Chasers game, right? You have to. And I was like, no, that's so old. No one remembers that stuff. So I really wanted to do something new, but as I was working on it, I was like, all this stuff is kind of in Battle Chasers already, and people know what it is, and people have asked about it for years. Like, even when I would be promoting other stuff, like Darksiders, there would always be someone that'd be like, when will you finish Battle Chasers? And the whole room laughed, and I was like, damn it. I guess people, maybe they'd be into it. And we did the Kickstarter, and it was huge, and that's when I felt for the first time like, hey, I think maybe people would still care about these characters. But we're definitely not, you don't have to be familiar with the comic at all. Like, it's reintroduced, it's a whole new story. If you've read the comics, you'll see the characters you love, but if you've never heard of Battle Chasers, it's okay. It's just a cool RPG that you can enjoy, with no prior knowledge.
So when do we get our hands on this game?
Really soon, actually. It's coming out on October 3rd for PC and console, which is very, very soon. So,
yay,
yeah.
So soon.
Very soon.
But you mentioned that you didn't have to have any knowledge of the comic prior. But we are going to see familiar characters from the Battle Chasers comic, right?
Yep, all the main heroes from the books are playable, and we introduced one new hero in the game that has not been in the comics before. And as part of the Kickstarter, I promised to do 3 new issues of the comic series as well.
Nice.
So I'll be starting on that very soon, too. Right now, all my focus has been on the game, but now that it's pretty much done, I'm just like finally able to focus on the comic.
So what are we looking at right now?
So right now, they've gotten into combat with some creatures here. This dungeon's a little further into the game, and the point of this dungeon is that they have to stop this summoning ritual from bringing this huge demon into the world.
Okay.
And so when you get into combat, there's an initiative system that sort of shows the turn order And
I
let's see.
like the comic
Sorry, it's
style.
hard for me to see
Oh, no
the
worries.
screen.
I mean,
oh,
we
there
have-
we go. There's Red Monica doing her thing. Every character has a combat role that's pretty obvious. You have like a rogue, sort of dark priest and a wizard in this case. But one cool thing is even in the dungeons, when you're exploring, they have dungeon abilities. So you can like stealth and avoid combat. You can damage enemies before you enter combat. So it's not that old school where you would just run around and the screen shatters and you're in combat every 10 steps. You can see the enemies, you can plan your attacks. You can see him right now. One of Alamon's abilities is to lay down these glyphs that if creatures pursue you and step on them, they'll take damage before combat.
I like the style of like
Me
when
too.
the bubbles pop up and it has that comic look.
Awesome, yeah.
Keeping the
there's-
comic feel.
We do. A lot of the cutscenes are told through this like animated comic style, and all the dialogues between the characters have like the comic balloons and stuff. So we try to keep that flavor in there.
Is there any characters that you're kind of fond of that kind of resonate in your because I know you've had these characters, you've known about these characters, you know them on a personal level, and any of them you're really kind of excited to have people play?
I do. For me, Gully is like the central character. She's this young girl. She's 10 years old, and
Aw.
she has superhuman strength. Though she has these giant gloves that belong to her father, and it was pretty cool in the comic. But really, like seeing her in action,
Yeah.
like ripping boulders out of the ground and throwing them, and just I don't know, hearing the voices and stuff. It was real cool. Like I had to answer questions I had never thought about. Like, does this guy have an accent? Does what is Calibretto's weird sound? What is that when he speaks? So,
Right.
and Calibretto's my other favorite. He's like a giant robot, and his hands turn into guns, which is really cool.
I always wanted gun hands.
I know.
Never gonna
Right?
happen. I don't think it's ever gonna
I
happen.
wish he was in this video because I want you to see it because it turned out really cool.
Now, during the cutscenes, do you get actually animated sequences where we can see the kind of storyline come through? Because I think since you have this like background in comics and working with Marvel, is it have you implemented this in the game?
Yeah, I mean, you can see a little bit of it here when she
Oh,
did
yeah,
her
there we
ability. Like the little comic panel sort of stretched across the screen, and I did all the art for the portrait dialogues when the
that's
characters
awesome.
talk. So it really does feel a lot like the comic. The cutscenes were done by Powerhouse Animation, who recently did the Netflix Castlevania series.
Ah, very cool.
so good.
Yeah, they did our intro sequence too. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
animated intro sequence.
Nice.
Dropping all the knowledge, all the tips, all the cool stuff.
It's really cool.
I
Yeah.
love this.
Well, as you mentioned, the game is coming out in October.
October 3rd.
So
Yep.
soon.
Very soon.
Yay.
So soon.
I'm excited. We've gotten great feedback here at Gamescom and E3 and stuff, and I really want. A lot of times, backers will press will be like, "Hey, I was also a backer," and so it's really cool to hear. We've only ever heard like positive feedback so far, so we're like, "Yeah, this game might do well." I don't know, so we'll find out soon.
Well, it's off to a good start. Can't wait until October
Thank
to
you.
play some Battle
Absolutely.
Chasers Nightwar. It is going down, and thank you so much for joining us here on stage.
Thank you, guys.
We're going to end this segment with a little trailer, and we'll be right back with more from Gamescom right after this.